Gotta write that one out phonetically.
And we're going to have to see how this matchup plays out, and also if these guys are both on Lightning Pokemon. I hope those yellow sleeves are not a telltale sign of some more Pikachu and Zekrom tag team.
They were for Robin Schultz earlier. I did take note. He was playing yellow sleeves and he was playing Lightning. But I don't actually know what Azul and Otavio are playing here today. But they're both 5-1-0. We saw both of their names in that top 12. They're playing right now from table number 5. So very nice results from both of them. I honestly would be surprised if we saw anything that wasn't the meta here right now. And Otavio playing his prizes. But there's Mysterious Treasure, so it looks like we are going to be seeing some Psychic Malamar here. Yeah. Potentially with Ultra Necrozma as well.
And then we've got some more Lightning on the other side, so that's okay. It's not a Lightning pairing. Both players are playing something
little
different.
Things, Ellis. But the little things we took for granted before we had like 3 Lightning mirror matches on stream.
But I did see a little bit of purple in Otavio's hand, so it does look like it will be a Psychic deck of some description. And players shake hands and get started, and yeah, it's the Ultra Necrozma deck. So this is the matchup that I think everyone expected to dominate the tournament, really. We saw that people were going to be playing Lightning decks and people were going to be playing Malamar decks, using that Psychic Recharge to just power up Ultra Necrozma or even the Necrozma GX. Either way, there's a lot of partner Pokemon that you can have with Malamar. And it's certainly been a popular choice. I mean, Malamar's Psychic Recharge ability allows you to put a lot of energy pretty quickly or in one turn onto any Pokemon of your choosing. And so in that way, you can play a lot of Pokemon that might have high attack costs. And, you know, you can kind of get away with that. So here we see from Otavio getting down an Inkay. I think for Ultra Necrozma or Malamar decks in general, they often have quite a scripted turn 1. They want to get out multiple Inkays to make sure that they have multiple Malamars down for the following turns. One thing we found, though, with the deck that Azul is playing, with the Zapdos, it can kind of take advantage of these decks that are playing the, lots of basic Pokemon that have 60 HP or less, or even 70 HP. Because of that Zapdos and its ability to switch into the active, pull up a basic from the bench, and just knock it out with Thunderous Assault. So I think that's something that Otavio has to be really mindful of here. He might need to try to get down multiple Inkays, more than he'd expect.
Yeah, I would expect this to be very much Azul trying to race to cut off the resources from Otavio, and that means sniping down those Inkay on the bench, and Otavio just trying to take this game as quickly as he possibly can. Because if he's able to get up those Malamar, start Psychic Recharge onto, whether it be Giratina on the bench, onto an Ultra Necrozma, or maybe even a Dawnwings Necrozma, then he can start to hit those really big numbers. And I would think the reason that some people are bringing Ultra Necrozma to this tournament is because it can hit the 240 hit point marker that is Pikachu and Zekrom GX. However, taking a look at Azul's deck, he's actually not playing a Pikachu and Zekrom variant. This is very much a similar variant to Robin Schultz, but a little bit less teched out. It is just single prize attackers with Zapdos, 4 Jirachi. He has 1 Absol, 1 Oranguru, and then a Tapu Koko GX and the Tapu Koko Prism. So he is just looking to take his knockouts with Zapdos primarily, and then he has Tapu Koko GX as sort of a backup here.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty similar to the one that Isaiah Williams was playing, actually. And so, hopefully we'll see him pilot this deck just as skillfully as Isaiah did. I have to say, on Otavio's side, Ultra Necrozma GX is definitely the Pokemon he didn't want to start with. Putting down a 2-prize attacker in this game, not really ideal, unfortunately. He really wants to be attacking with Giratina every turn, taking a prize every turn with Giratina, and, not being able to give up 2 prizes in one turn to Azul would be ideal, I think.
Yeah, and we can see he is running 2 copies of Giratina in this list. 1 or 2 is pretty standard, but depending on whether you want to add additional tech cards or additional supporters, then that would drop that 2 line down to 1. But he does have both, so it is going to be easier for him to achieve that goal of attacking primarily with the Giratina and then bringing it back from the discard to get it back in that active position. But yeah, like you were saying, that Ultra Necrozma is now there and potentially can be taken advantage of by Azul.
Now, there's one saving grace with that Ultra Necrozma GX, and that is GX attack. And it's one that typically Malamar decks wouldn't be looking to ever attack with. They'd always have something that was a bit better, whether it be a Dawnwings Necrozma GX or Necrozma GX or some other GX. But actually now at the moment, Sky Scorching Light GX, which is Ultra Necrozma GX's attack, is actually quite ideal. All these decks are playing Pokemon that have low hit points, particularly at Jirachi, has 70 HP. if you're Sky Scorching Light, you're putting 6 damage counters on each of your opponent's Pokemon. And so if you've already set up a little bit of chip damage on multiple Jirachis, you can actually take multiple prize cards in one turn. And I think that might be what Otavio is going to look to go towards in the late game when there are fewer prizes remaining. That's his way to swing the matchup back into his favor.
Yeah, it's just a matter of finding that chip damage, and that's a little bit difficult with this deck because the attackers do hit so hard. I mean, this Ultra Necrozma is going to be taking knockouts pretty much every time it attacks, and then the Giratina is hitting for 130 every time, so this isn't a Shrine of Punishment list, which is looking to spread a little bit here and there, and then take those knockouts with Sky Scorching Light. It's going to be a lot more straightforward than that usually. But we'll have to see if Otavio can go toe-to-toe with the power of the lightning decks that we've been seeing so much of today. And this Zapdos in particular has been used as an early attacker, and we've seen Pikachu and Zekrom as sort of that finisher, but Azul has said, you know what? I don't even need that. Doesn't have Jolteon GX in the list, doesn't have Pikachu and Zekrom, just quad Zapdos, and then a copy of that Tapu Koko GX for some counter potential against Pikachu and Zekrom in particular.
Yeah, very happy to display those single prize attackers and force the opponent to take 6 individual prizes, which is quite difficult for some decks that rely on taking, you know, those 3 prizes off GX tag teams or 2 prizes off Tapu Lele GXs and whatnot. I will note that, as you said, he does play 2 Giratinas, and those can actually put chip damage on if they're taken from the discard pile using Distortion Door.
Good
which
point.
is its ability, yeah. So, I mean, it has a little bit of spread going.
Okay.
Not a lot, but
I'm picking up what you're putting down, Ellis.
Yeah, excellent. We're on the
So
same
we're spreading.
page.
Then we're Sky
Yes.
Scorching Light. The Jirachis have 70 hit points. Suddenly they're knocked out. He's taking a couple extra prizes, and okay, things get a little bit easier there.
Yeah, I can swing it back. I know we're both fans of Malamars, but
Oh,
we'll try
I
not to
love me some
cast this with
squids.
any bias going on here. But
I will just say we've seen a lot of lightning today. But, I mean, Azul as a player is one that I always love getting to watch. He's very talented. I have, however, not seen much of Otavio, but I'm a big fan of the Brazilian scene for card games in general. They're very talented, and it's great to get to see another Brazilian player up here. So I will keep my biases to a minimum.
And I will say that, like, when you have a look at the top 8 results from a lot of internationals, there's always a Brazilian player in there. You know, whether it's Gustavo Wada or you're seeing like Natalia Fernandez do well at events as well.
She's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, the Brazilian scene is very, very skilled, and so I expect big things from Otavio as well. I feel that he's going to play quite well, and he has actually taken the first prize card here on that Zapdos. And Azul, I mean, you look at both sides, and Azul's not really set up too much, unfortunately.
Otavio is out the gate running here, getting that Zapdos out of the active, taking his first prize, and you were saying that, yeah, this Ultra Necrozma can be a bit of a liability, but it does have 190 hit points. Azul is going to need a little bit of help to be able to actually knock this thing out in one go, and if he doesn't knock it out in one go, then this Ultra Necrozma is just going to keep taking prizes. It's so easy to generate that psychic energy every single turn. So, I mean, there is a chance here that Otavio could just have too much ground and Azul can't come back.
But I mean, if there's anything we've learned from today is that Electric definitely has a lot of combo pieces it can use to really just get big knockouts from out of nowhere. That Jirachi being able to search for item cards, can get Electro Power, can get switches. Yeah, I mean, you know, we almost saw 6 prizes taken with Pikachu Zekrom. We've seen a lot of prizes. We've seen a lot of prizes taken with Zapdos. So you never know what's going to happen in these lightning decks just because they have so many pieces.
Yeah, the deck is just utility, utility, utility. Charge up attacks with Electro Power, hit those choice bands, and then every single turn you're searching out these trainer cards with the use of Jirachi Stellar Wish. So it definitely is possible for Azul to get a one-hit knockout onto the Ultra Necrozma, but it might take a little bit of time for him to find those tools.
It looks like he's deciding to take single prizes for now and just, you know, go down to a few prize cards and maybe take a big knockout right at the end. If he's able to knock out things like the Malamars or the Inkays before they can set up, it might limit Otavio's ability to get those energy onto his Ultra Necrozmas and find them when they're in the discard pile and get them back. He's going to Viridian Forest and collect another energy here. As we know, these lightning decks definitely want to have energy in play so they can, you know, manipulate energy switch if they do choose to play that, and use that Tapu Koko Prism Star as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much, it looks like, that Azul is really wanting to energy switch to. I mean, if he's mainly attacking with Zapdos, it's going to be just that single energy. So he does have a one of energy Lotto in the deck, maybe to accelerate that energy a little bit. But once he's got it, he's not going to be hard-pressed to, you know, find additional energy to attack. It's just not a very energy-heavy list.
So it's extremely streamlined. Streamlined Zapdos deck.
Yeah, I mean, and that's nice. That means consistency in my mind with 4 Jirachi, only 8 Lightning Energy, and just a ton of those powerful trainer cards that he's looking to accelerate out with the Jirachi. But we're going to see a Marshadow here let loose on the side of Otavio.
I think
Try and cut down on those resources that Azul's been getting.
I feel like we've said let loose fewer times than I would have expected this weekend. I see it in all the lists, but it never seems to be played as much as you'd think. So we're seeing Otavio gets 4 cards now, and that's not really ever a problem for Malamar, just because it's often not really looking for too many pieces. It's really happy to just recycle energy from the discard pile and put them onto the Ultra Necrozma.
It is a little bit of a problem when 2 of those cards are Viridian Forest, and there's already a Viridian Forest in play. But, I mean, this Ultra Necrozma may be all that Otavio needs to win this game. He's going to get another knockout on the Zapdos here. And that's 2 of the 4 in Azul's deck now in the discard pile.
Azul is keeping up, though, as long as he's able to, knock out those Inkays or Marshadows on the bench. I feel like he's in a pretty good position because he's just trading favorably and then possibly in one turn is able to take the Ultra Necrozma and just pull ahead in the game. I guess it's up to Otavio now to decide, what should I let Azul have in the active spot if things like Escape Rope are being played or switching effects. Obviously, he has no choice. If a Guzma is played, then that specific Pokemon gets taken out. But yeah, he's got to sort of think ahead here and figure out how he's going to win in the long run. I wonder if he's even trying to find Giratina at this point, or if he's just happy to attack with this Ultra Necrozma GX, recognizing that, hey, this is just the attacker that I have. But Azul here, it looks like he's continuing a similar sort of game plan where he's just happy to Guzma out Pokemon from the bench and just, take 1 prize each turn and steadily keep up.
Yeah, he's going to be looking to try to bring up one of those Malamar and get a knockout there. He's going to have Instruct online with the Oranguru on the bench now.
So unfortunately, Malamar's a little bit different to an Inkay or a Marshadow, and then it actually has 90 HP. So it's not as simple as just Guzma and Energy as Azul, I'm sure, would like. He does have to find an Electro Power as well to knock it out.
Thunderous Assault does 70 additional damage if the Zapdos is promoted to the active spot that turn, but that's only 80 total. So he is going to
bring up the Inkay, get rid of the escape board, and he does seem to be keeping up fairly well at the moment. And unfortunately, only 1 energy on that Ultra Necrozma GX will not actually be enough to knock out the Zapdos. It does have 110 HP. Photon guys are doing 20 plus 80 for each Psychic Energy discarded from Ultra Necrozma. So he does have to find a way to retreat that Marshadow to be able to get that combo off of double Psychic Recharge to the Necrozma. Looks like he's found the energy to just be effectively an escape board in this sense, able to retreat for 1.
Recharge the 2 energy from the discard onto the Ultra Necrozma, bring that up and knock out his 3rd Zapdos of the game.
I do believe that Azul will probably be looking to find that Absol to prevent this kind of easy retreating option that Otavio can go to. It will force him to find the escape board as well, or multiple switching effects to be able to get whichever Pokemon he promotes out of the active position. That Absol, such a great counter to those sort of Jirachi escape board plays that people seem to have gone to for this tournament.
Anything to just slow this game down a little bit. Azul does not want Otavio taking a knockout every single turn. And so far, that's what he's been doing. Every turn, it's just recycle their Psychic Energy onto Ultra Necrozma, get a knockout, bring it back to the bench, do it again.
But they are on even prizes at the moment, and I think given that it's Azul's turn, if he's able to keep taking 1 prize each turn, he will actually win the game.
He should be at a slight advantage, but if he just misses a single turn, if he misses a Guzma, if he misses an escape rope, then suddenly things could swing into Otavio's favor. But right now, even though Otavio has, I would say, the beefier board state, he's obviously got that Ultra Necrozma doing the bulk of the work, things are still fairly close.
Yeah, I think it will come down to, I think it's a lot easier for Otavio to keep the chain going versus Azul. He's got to find those pieces. He does have Jirachi with Stellar Wish, and he does have Instruct as well to really hone into those cards that he needs each turn to get those combos off, whether that's the Guzma, Escape Rope. But, you only play a finite number of Guzma. You only play a finite number of Escape Rope, so can't go on forever.
He did just Instruct for 2, and I believe he did hit a Guzma.
Pro plays.
I mean, what do you expect from Azul at this point?
He's refined his deck perfectly so that he can get all these switching options. So
he's really trimmed the fat, I would say.
I wouldn't call Jolteon the fat
stuff.
there. I think Jolteon's pretty good.
Oh, I think Jolteon's great.
So it looks like a Guzma's played onto the Malamar with an Electro Power as well to get a knockout on that one. And here it comes down to Otavio to think, decides to promote the Ultra Necrozma. One energy will not be enough to knock out the Zapdos. Oh, looks like he's changed his mind and gone to a Jirachi.
Yeah, he took his hand off of the Ultra Necrozma, though. Not sure that...
that seems to be fine.
Okay.
Looks like they're progressing with the game
He's going to let him go with it.
So Jirachi is in the active spot now, can use that Stellar Wish to maybe find an escape board. Again, he doesn't have that. The ability of Absol on Azul's side is not actually in play at the moment, so it will not cost him 1 extra to retreat. And from those 5 cards, I didn't see an escape board.
No, looks like Mysterious Treasure and a Lily are his options.
I'd like to see him try to get out a Giratina this game, although he probably has some strategies going on with this, just to get a bit of chip damage down in case that Sky Scorching Light becomes an option to take multiple prizes in 1 turn. Looks like a Mysterious Treasure is being played. He's going to have a look through his deck to see what is still left.
Yeah, I do wonder if maybe he'd gone for Giratina strategy, then he could potentially find that last prize before Azul does with the Sky Scorching Light GX attack of the Ultra Necrozma, but it just doesn't seem like something that he was really concerned with this game. He was content to just get those prizes with Ultra Necrozma.
And does have to get some Malamar pieces down to an Inkay because they have been targeted each turn. And so it actually does come down to putting multiple energies onto an Ultra Necrozma to get these knockouts on Zapdos. And to do so, you do actually have to require you do have to play Malamar. And there is the Giratina coming out now, and it's going to be discarded with Viridian Forest. That's a really quite clever interaction, actually. It gets it into the discard pile, which means you can use Distortion Door, its ability, to put it on the bench and put that chip damage, that 10 chip damage. But Azul, I think, has recognized this as a strategy and has actually only put down 1 Jirachi.
Yeah, he was holding on to a few of them in his hand a couple turns ago, but wisely recognized that he probably had enough to get the job done without playing additional ones and just shuffled them back into his deck, I believe.
So I think it really comes down to Azul's ability to just keep taking prizes each turn, keep taking a knockout onto a single prize, a Marshadow, an Inkay, a Malamar, and he'll just pull ahead in this game. And there's not really much Otavio can do about that if Azul doesn't happen to miss a beat.
Otavio does not have the escape board to get the Jirachi out of the active, so he's got the necessary energy onto the Ultra Necrozma to knock out the Zapdos, but can't get that Jirachi out of there.
I think that's pretty big. I think that's really swung it back, sort of put Azul further ahead, actually, rather than swung it back. And now we see Cynthia from Azul just going to find a couple more pieces to secure the game, potentially on the next turn if he's able to find more switching effects.
Yeah, looking like at the very least he can take a knockout on Jirachi this turn. And then on the following turn, if he just has a Guzma or an Escape Rope, very likely will be able to just go ahead and win game 1.
We don't know how many he's played. I see a Guzma in hand. It feels like he's played about 8 Guzmas this game, to be honest. But looks like he's using them wisely and conserving them.
Yeah. See.
A couple of energy in the discard pile. He's just checking, I think, how many energy have I gone through?
Seeing 1 Guzma and a single Escape Rope.
So he does have to use an energy to retreat, and if that Zapdos gets knocked out, he does have to find an energy to be able to potentially win the game with the Zapdos on the bench. But it looks like he's using Tapu Koko's Dance of the Ancients to put some energy onto his board. Attaching to Jirachi means that he also has a retreating option if he needs it next turn, and down goes Otavio's Jirachi, putting Azul on 1 prize.
And that Tapu Koko GX, or Tapu Koko Prism, excuse me, is in the Lost Zone, but inconsequential that it's not actually
just
there
hanging
right
out in
now.
the discard pile.
It's not coming back, though.
But this game really has just gone to script for Azul. He's just been able to take single prizes each turn, not too worried about the Ultra Necrozma in the active position. And it's really just been on Otavio to find a way to take multiple prizes in 1 turn and pull himself ahead.
Yeah, I think if you can describe a game as going according to plan, that would be it for Azul this time around. It's just dance around that Ultra Necrozma, take out those benched Pokemon, really try and stop that Psychic Recharge game plan from Otavio, and then just naturally have an advantage because Otavio can't take 2 prizes at any one point in time unless he gets that Giratina game plan going a little bit earlier, spreading damage, and then with Sky Scorching Light GX being able to take multiple prizes. But that's just not the plan that he went for this game. So we might see him adopt a bit of a different strategy going into game number 2, because Ultra Necrozma GX did a lot of work, but it's just not fast enough.
I think his strategy will be not to open with Ultra Necrozma GX if he can help it.
I would recommend that, yeah.
But I think if any, we haven't actually seen a game go to plan yet on stream, I don't think. I don't recall any of them. So it's nice to see Azul's able to get his strategy going.
It's just because the majority of the Lightning decks that we've seen have all been playing Pikachu and Zekrom and then can't play Pikachu and Zekrom because they're just going to concede the game to their opponent if they do.
Well, it's challenging people. They have to come up with their plan Bs and Cs and
Azul just said, I don't want to have to do that, so I'm going to make plan B my plan A, and I'm going to make it a much more consistent plan A.
Yeah, I think that's wise. So Otavio there, he's used the Distortion Door ability of Giratina, placed 1 damage counter on 2 of Azul's bench Pokemon, and then he's used Ultra Necrozma GX's Sky Scorching Light GX attack. But unfortunately for Otavio, fantastically for Azul, he had the Guzma to seal the game there.
All right, game number 1 going over to Azul.
And I think that's how you sort of expect the matchup to play out, right? I mean, especially if Otavio's starting with an Ultra Necrozma GX or any kind of GX Pokemon, it really puts him at a disadvantage because at any time, Azul could just use that Zapdos with multiple Electro Powers, a Choice Band, to just pull ahead in the prize race and take 2 prizes when he knows, I have no GXs, so unless you're Sky Scorching Light, you can't take multiple prizes in 1 turn. And he's played around that sort of end game by just putting down 1 Jirachi instead of 2, which is very, very clever. Great foresight.
Yeah, I mean, having that Ultra Necrozma in play always does threaten the ability for Azul to take 2 prizes in a turn, but he didn't have to do that in that game. He was just able to consistently get knockouts every single turn, manipulate the board with escape ropes and with Guzmas to get those knockouts that he wanted, whereas Otavio had to skip an entire turn because he couldn't get his Jirachi out of the active. If he can't manipulate his board and Psychic Recharge onto the bench and then turn that bench into the active every turn, then he's just naturally going to have a slower game plan. So it was just really the pieces coming together there for Azul, but we're going to go into game number 2 and see if he can recreate that game from game number 1, or if Otavio maybe will go about a bit of a different strategy this time around, maybe utilizing that Giratina.
So interestingly, in Azul's prizes is his 1 Oranguru. So that could come up, that could be an issue at some point if he's relying on having that and being able to use its ability Instruct to fill his hand up to 3 cards. And unfortunately, Otavio started with that Ultra Necrozma GX again.
Well, I mean, them's the breaks.
This is what happens. You play against a single prize attacker deck and you think, this is my strategy, and then your deck just doesn't do what you want it to.
Not playing a ton of basics, but I mean, 2 Jirachi, 4 Inkay, and the 2 Giratina, and he's got the Marshadow GX.
I mean...
Well, you don't want to start the Marshadow.
You always want to start Jirachi, but it, Ultra Necrozma is not the worst. I mean, we saw last game he was able to consistently take prizes, and if Azul happens to have the Oranguru in the prize cards and not able to find it, he might be able to miss a beat, and then that will give Otavio an opportunity to come through and, pull ahead in the prize race. He has found Jirachi, and he will use Stellar Wish to find an ideal supporter or trainer card that he needs this turn. He goes for Lily, which is everyone's favorite first turn supporter.
Get the switch out of hand to get the Jirachi in the active, Stellar Wish for the Lily, and now just dump as much of the hand as he wants to be able to Lily up to a fresh 8 cards on turn 1.
The unfortunate thing is, I mean, most players, whenever they play a game with the Pokemon trading card game, is they want to go first. They want to have the opportunity to set up before their opponent, especially if you're running a deck that has stage 1s or stage 2 Pokemon, because you need that extra turn to be able to get them into play, get all your resources down. Interestingly, the Zapdos deck is actually okay with going second because it can Guzma or Escape Rope and actually start taking the first prize on a basic that has 60 or 80 HP or less, which, let's face it, most of the basics in the current game. So it's actually, Azul going second isn't so bad for him. He's not really put at a disadvantage. Which is a little bit awkward for Otavio there because, of course, he's going to choose to go first. Going for second for him is a disadvantage. So he finds Mysterious Treasure. He's going to get down some Inkays now. And really, he's going to have to just go with the same strategy, I think. And hope that Azul plays down a Jirachi and we can get that Distortion Door with Sky Scorching Light.
There's only so much that Otavio's deck can do to deviate from its traditional strategy, and that really is just Giratina in this case. So if Otavio does perhaps get that Giratina engine rolling and can hit Sky Scorching Light GX onto a couple of bench Jirachi, then maybe he can swing things into his favor. But it's looking like he might just be hoping that Azul fumbles a little bit in this game, whereas he didn't in game 1.
And really interesting, Otavio is only able to find 1 Inkay. So if Azul's able to target that down, that will be a Inkay or Malamarless board for Otavio over there, which is not something you typically want to see. Now, he did get an energy attachment onto Ultra Necrozma, which is important, but he actually still needs a Metal Energy and a Psychic Energy to be able to knock out a Zapdos, which is kind of hard to find when you're only allowed to attach 1 energy per turn under normal circumstances.
Yeah, the fact that the Zapdos does have 130 HP can make knocking it out in one go a little bit difficult sometimes. And that second Psychic Energy can be a bit prohibitive, especially in those first 2 turns.
A pretty good start from Azul there. He finds pretty much all the pieces that he needs, including the escape board and energy, and is able to Cynthia. That Viridian Forest really just helping him out as well, being able to find the energy. Zapdos just needing 1 energy to attack is incredibly powerful. Very great attacker in his current format. Does mean that he isn't able, because he's played Cynthia, does mean he can't play the Guzma, but
that's okay. He can still take a knockout on the Jirachi this turn. It is not as strong as, you know, knocking out that Inkay and preventing the Malamar would be, but you're getting Stellar Wish off of the board, and he's taking that first prize, very importantly, which we saw him set the pace in the last game, and then just every single turn try and check the game.
So interesting, he actually found the Beast Energy. So Beast Energy can only be attached to Ultra Beast. It allows them to do 30 extra damage when they're attacking, and that's, I think, enough to actually get the knockout on Zapdos. It does go around that need to attach 2 energy, so that's a really great find for him on that one. It does mean he can return the knockout and go down to 5 prizes as well.
Super, super valuable. And now Otavio, even without Malamar set up, if he just has a Psychic Energy from hand every turn, is going to be able to attach and knock out a Zapdos.
And he can be pretty confident, I think, that the Beast Energy will stick there as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's no energy targeting removal for Azul's deck. Outside of Azul knocking out the Ultra Necrozma, that Beast Energy is going to stick.
Yeah, which unfortunately is possible when the deck plays Choice Band and 4 Electro Powers, so it is really a thing. But he will be able to get a knockout on Zapdos. And again, he's saying to Azul, okay, you can try to find your Zapdos again. You only run 4. If I knock out 4, what are you going to do then? Then it comes down to Azul finding those rescue stretches and being able to get them back. He does only run 2, so if he's not able to find them, could be a little bit awkward, and he may miss a beat. He may miss a turn of taking a prize, especially if you can't find it in combination with, you know, that Escape Rope or Guzma targeting effect. But
if at any point he's forced to play the Tapu Koko GX, which he really doesn't want to. He doesn't want to give Otavio any opportunity to take 2 prizes with 1 knockout. But, you know, if the Jirachis are gone, he doesn't have the rescue stretchers, and he needs an attacker, that's his backup attacker. So that's sort of the situation that Otavio's looking to get in. Knock out 4 Zapdos, and then force out a Tapu Koko GX, take that 5th knockout, and win the game that way.
Yeah, and Tapu Koko may not seem like the greatest attacker in this matchup just because Ultra Necrozma gets rid of its energy when it attacks, but it does have a second attack called Sky High Claws, which is enough if it has a Choice Band and an Electro Power, which with all these lightning damage modifiers, anything's really possible. They can always, you know, something that does 110 HP like Jolteon can later on just be one hit knocking out like Zeraora GX, something with a lot more hit points.
Can hit 170, can hit 200 even. It is certainly not out of the realm of possibility here, but Azul is gonna bring up that Tapu Koko in the Inkay, and then of course get that Tapu Koko out of the active, bring up Zapdos, and take a knockout here. And very importantly, Otavio was not able to set up Malamar on the previous turn. He was able to bench a second Inkay, but didn't have access to Malamar. So his engine is still getting warmed up here, I would say.
And just more pieces that are in Azul's favor is that Shrine of Punishment, putting 1 damage counter on each GX Pokemon that's in play. Azul doesn't play any, so that 1 damage counter is only just going to go on that Ultra Necrozma GX, and it sort of puts Otavio on a timer as well. I mean, it is, what, a 19-turn timer, but it's still a timer.
And you know what? If 3 turns of Shrine of Punishment go, and then suddenly you need 1 less Electro Power or Choice Band to be able to knock out the Ultra Necrozma, suddenly 10 damage adding up over time is actually really important.
Yeah, very relevant. So we see a Nest Ball here from Otavio. You know, what's he going to try to find? The obvious target would be an Inkay, but you could also look for Giratina. You'd have to think at some point he's going to want to use Marsh Shadows let loose to try to disrupt Azul and make him miss a beat. I don't know if there's an ideal time to do that, whether it's now when Azul's deck is larger than later when it's smaller, which means he could definitely miss a piece. I do feel like it's an early option is good.
I think ideally he would like to let loose after knocking out the Jirachi on the bench, just to prevent any sort of searching from Azul on the following turn, and really try to restrict the resources. But if he can't target down that Jirachi, then, you know, at some point he's just going to be forced to.
So he's recognizing that Giratina might be a good option here. So there's a Psychic Recharge onto the Giratina on the bench. And it's really interesting because if your opponent is knocking out Giratina, you can actually use that, bring it back with the Distortion Door ability and start spreading damage counters around. So it might be nicer to have that in the active spot and sort of saying, all right, you can 2-hit my Giratina with your Zapdos if you cannot find the damage modifiers. And even when it's knocked out, I can bring it back and I can put more damage down without attacking.
Yeah, I mean, so much so that discarding Giratina with Viridian Forest just to bring it back and spread those 2 damage counters onto the opponent's bench is a seriously popular play, one that we saw Otavio do just in the previous game there. But he's going to take a knockout, and Jirachi will be promoted to the active for Azul. So both players sitting on 4 prize cards, but again, Azul is still ahead because he can take a knockout on this turn. So if things just sort of go back and forth, players are taking knockout after knockout, then Azul will still end up winning this game at this pace.
Yeah, and I do really have to give credit to Azul. He's holding the Jirachis. He has a Jirachi in hand. Most players will just put down as many Jirachi as possible so they can switch between them, look at as many cards as they want, and take trainer cards from their deck. He's recognizing, no, if I do that, that's my way to lose. It may seem good in the short term, but that Sky Scorching Light is going to knock both of those out with a little bit of chip damage.
And it really is possible for Azul to do this because his deck requires so little to function at full capacity here. Just 1 Lightning Energy on the Zapdos to attack, and then as many of those switching cards as he can possibly find.
Yeah, and I mean, he's not missing a beat. He's found another one, which is that Guzma off the Stellar Wish of the Jirachi, its ability there, which has really seen a lot of play this weekend. I would say, you know, Zapdos, I was saying, was an MVP before, but honestly, Jirachi probably takes that award.
I would think Jirachi is probably the most represented card. Most represented Pokemon here this weekend. So your supporters are going to be the most represented card. But a brand new card for the first time in competitive play being seen here today, and it is making quite a name for itself.
Yeah, and you wouldn't usually think that a 70 HP basic would be so impactful.
So small.
I mean, it can't be found by the Professor Elm's supporter card. When usually you want to be playing basics that can be in most decks. It's found its way into a lot of different types of decks as well. So I think it's a really interesting card that, you know, I'm going to go out and get 4 of after this.
I mean, honestly, when Tapu Lele GX is a liability because Pikachu and Zekrom's just spreading 170 to the bench and taking 2 prizes from that, suddenly Jirachi looks a lot better. You know, you play 4 of them, you're happy to start it, and then, yeah, you may need to make the investment of a couple of escape boards into your list, but if you can afford to do that, suddenly you have this incredible option for utility.
So, I always wonder if we're going to see some more Absols in the future, trying to sort of exploit that Jirachi that people are playing and prevent them from retreating.
I think especially in a list like Azul's, where there's so few Pokemon that you really need to play to actually attack with, you might be able to afford an additional copy of Absol if you're running into so many Jirachi, which it seems like everybody is.
And he does run 1, but we just haven't seen it at all.
Yeah.
I do think it is relevant in this matchup. I do think he would have played it if he had the option. I think he's often looking for a different piece to keep up. You know, Nest Ball to find another Zapdos instead of the Absol, or Ultra Ball to get, you know, Oranguru or Jirachi. But here we finally see the Giratina strategy is coming into play. So Giratina, its Shadow Impact attack, 130 damage, definitely knocks out a Zapdos. But you have to put 4 damage counters on one of your Pokemon. And that can really add up.
And the Shrine of Punishment damage is starting to add up on the Ultra Necrozma as well. 150 hit points remaining there. That Inkay is hurting now. But ultimately, Zapdos is going to be able to take a knockout on the Inkay no matter what. Whereas putting the 40 damage on the Malamar suddenly puts it within range, so he's never going to want to do that.
Yeah, it's really interesting because the more Shadow Impact attacks that Otavio goes for, the more damage he's going to have on his board. And there's going to soon, you know, there won't be places to put that damage. So it's got to think carefully about where that's going to go.
Giratina can put the damage on itself. We've seen that happening quite a bit, but right now Otavio wants to get as much mileage out of this Giratina as he can. He wants to take a couple knockouts and not put it, you know, within range of a single Zapdos plus Electro Power.
Yeah, I think if it doesn't have the damage on it, then it's 2 Electro Powers for the knockout, whereas if it had the 40 damage, it's just 1. So that's good thinking. It's just thinking ahead going, oh, if he has the Guzma, he's going to target the Inkay anyway, so having a bit of damage on there doesn't really matter too much. But putting it on the Giratina really, you know, potentially could be knocked out. So actually this turn is really on Azul to be able to find something, to be able to get a knockout and keep taking those prizes, because this could be the turn that Otavio comes back and gets a prize when Azul doesn't.
And that could be all that Otavio really needs to get that little bit of momentum here, but Azul does have a Lightning Energy, commits to...
deliberating, found one Electro Power.
The Choice Band is not going to help him knock out the Giratina, but a second Electro Power would do the job.
He was hoping that Instruct, he'd get one Pokemon that would allow him to... he would get that Electro Power off the one Instruct, but didn't happen to find it. Looks like he's retreating. Oh, he's using the Tapu Koko's Down to the Ancient ability to get energy from the discard pile, put those onto his Pokemon. Takes one liability off the bench. Rescue Stretcher for the Zapdos would definitely be his target. He does only runs at 4 Zapdos, as you can only. So he wants to make sure he can keep attacking with those and force Otavio to take those 6 Zapdos knockouts.
And as much as Psychic on the Oranguru is actually a viable attack, he would like to not have to do that if possible.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the greatest attack. Certainly in this matchup, it does fewer damage than Zapdos if the opponent doesn't have any energy attached to them. But Lily found a Lily. I'm not sure what he's discarding there, but could definitely be an Electro Power.
Could Azul have not stretchered for the Zapdos and then use Dance of the Ancients to get an additional Lightning Energy on the Zapdos instead of the Oranguru on the bench?
Yeah. He might be thinking ahead and thinking that Oranguru is a target for Otavio to Guzma and leave in the active spot and give himself some time to
put some energy on it to retreat, maybe.
Yeah, maybe should have a word with Azul later, give him a bit of coaching.
I mean, he has plenty of Zapdos here. I don't think for a second he's going to need that third Zapdos, but I don't know, man. I'm just trying to keep up.
Don't worry, I'll chat with him later. I'll say, look, Cora has some words of wisdom for you about your plays.
I'm new here, okay?
Mysterious Treasure from Otavio there. Getting rid of a Malamar, probably recognizing he's not going to have enough time to set up Ingaze and get some more things going. I mean, just one energy, that beast energy is putting in a lot of work. It means that he doesn't really have to switch around. It means he can just attach that one energy each turn. And like we were saying, it really puts it on Azul to be able to get those knockouts. But I have to say that Shrine of Punishment is putting in a lot of work. It is that Ultra Necrozma GX is getting very close to Zapdos just knocking it out with any sort of modifiers going on.
And Otavio is playing copies of Viridian Forest. He just has not found them yet.
I think he had 3 in his hand at one point, or that might have been the previous game. Wasn't necessarily ideal.
Yeah, where he let loose to 4 and 2 of the cards were Viridian Forest, I think.
But it looks like he's playing a switch into a new Ultra Necrozma GX. Means that this one isn't necessarily going to get knocked out by a Zapdos straight away. But at the moment, there aren't enough energy on that Pokemon to get a knockout on the Zapdos, because it isn't the Beast Energy. It is a regular Metal Energy on there.
He does have a Psychic Energy in hand.
And we're going to possibly see a Marshadow let loose. Does seem to find that off the Mysterious Treasure. And it will go down, and we will see both players shuffle in and draw 4. So this is a way to disrupt Azul. I mean, he does have ways to get out of it. So there's Stellar Wish by Jirachi. And then the Oranguru's Instruct as well. A way for him to just draw cards to find, at this point, probably just a Guzma. Guzma the Ultra Necrozma. I mean,
Azul just needs the 2 prizes. So if he can bring up the Ultra Necrozma on the bench and get a knockout, he's going to win the game, which is why Otavio brought up the undamaged Ultra Necrozma, because he wants to stretch this out a little bit longer. He needs to take 3 knockouts here still to win the game.
And Zapdos with a Choice Band is looking quite threatening. I mean, that's 110 damage onto that Ultra Necrozma if he can find the Guzma. And we can't really see what's in Azul's hand right now. He's playing it quite close to his...
I don't think he's played an Electro Power yet this game, though, or maybe just one. So it's very likely that he's going to have the necessary damage modifiers, or at least be able to find them very soon.
I think he has 2 left, so it should be okay. Jirachi does find your Electro Power for you, hopefully, some of the time. That's an attachment from hand onto the bench Necrozma GX. I'm not sure if Otavio realizes he'll just be doing 100 damage to that Zapdos, not knocking it out. Or perhaps he's preparing it for a Sky Scorching Light later on.
Sure, okay. And he is going to Distortion Door and spread the damage onto the Jirachi and the Oranguru on the bench, setting up for Sky Scorching Light to knock out the Jirachi.
Yeah, it's going to end up being a really, really clever play if he does actually not knock out the Zapdos and just put 100 damage on it. It looks like there's a Guzma.
Okay, so
he'll get the knockout.
Yeah, he is going to go for a knockout onto the Zapdos, but this leaves the damaged Ultra Necrozma.
I don't think you have to discard the...
He's retreating.
Oh, he's retreating.
And he's going to Sky Scorching Light here.
So he'll take the knockout on the Jirachi. And that's a really clever play. It actually puts Azul a little bit more difficulty at finding what he needs. A combination of Marshadow and Sky Scorching Light. Yeah, very, very well played.
And Otavio is going to try and lock this Jirachi into the active spot if Azul doesn't have a way to switch around. Then potentially Otavio could even get ahead here.
Yeah, I mean, he's now on 2. Azul has to get a prize this turn to put himself even with Otavio for next turn. But you always have to look at that Ultra Necrozma with the 60 damage on the bench. That is just a target waiting for a Guzma for Azul to just play that. He can now just freely play Jirachis as well. He doesn't have the threat of the Sky Scorching Light. I mean, if Otavio is going to be taking prizes, he's probably not going to be targeting those Jirachis. He's going to be targeting the things that can actually one-hit knock out his Ultra Necrozma GX on the bench. So it does mean that Azul can play a little bit more freely now and try to find the items, trainers, supporters that he needs.
And taking a look at Otavio's deck, he does not have a way to remove the damage from the Ultra Necrozma on the bench. He's not playing Tapu Lele GX, and he's also used GX attack already this game. So that damage is going to stick.
We see the Malamar come up into the active spot. I assume that Azul has played an escape rope into his discard pile.
Yep, saw one of those in his hand. Professor Kukui is going to give him the 20 damage that he needs to knock out the Malamar.
That's really clutch. He'll be able to do 100 damage instead of the 80 and knock out that Malamar. And now, now it comes back to Otavio to be able to find something to keep himself in this game. I mean, he will be able to achieve a knockout on any Pokemon, but you kind of expect that Azul will be able to come back and just knock something out.
I mean, Otavio needs to take a knockout next turn, as well as leave a Pokemon in the active that cannot be revenge knocked out by one of Azul's Zapdos, and then hope that Azul does not have Guzma or Escape Rope.
And it doesn't look like Azul has too many cards in hand, I don't think. So, this is Otavio's play. He's got to attack with that Ultra Necrozma, take the knockout, and hope there's no return knockout. I don't think he plays, I believe he only plays one Marshadow GX, one Marshadow, so he can't disrupt Azul's hand again. But at this point, you just have to, just got to believe, just got to hope.
There's no more N-to-1 in the format. And he can't let loose anymore.
I think I'm pretty happy with no more N-to-1.
Oh, I'm not mad about it. All right, he is going to Cynthia and draw a fresh 6 here, but there's not much that he could find that would prevent Azul from winning this game if he just has a Guzma.
I'd like another Sky Scorching Light. That would be great.
Yeah.
I mean, if you could attack twice with the GX move.
But I don't think there's a Bonnie for Ultra Necrozma, unfortunately.
Your mind's stuck on Zygarde.
Her relationship with Zygarde was special, Ellis.
Oh, there we go. We find
they were best friends.
A counter to Shrine of Punishment. So it means the clock's now, that 19-turn clock we were talking about is now over.
Yeah.
But
we only got 7 turns in.
You know what? It is relevant because a choice band Zapdos actually does 110, which does not knock out that Necrozma on the bench.
Ever so close, but not quite. So the Viridian Forest coming right in time to prevent the Shrine of Punishment from maybe closing out the game.
I think it was calculated.
No. I like it.
Down to 1 prize each. Now it just comes down to Azul. Can he get the knockout? Because we know that Otavio on his turn is
Electro
probably
Power
going to be able
and
to get the
Guzma
knockout.
in hand, and that's going to be game there. Azul is going to take it 2-0 in this best of 3. But you know what? Otavio, he played really well. It was a really clean series. Just unfortunately, he was on the back foot pretty much the entire time consistently. And he did everything that he could do to try and get ahead in this game. We saw Sky Scorching Light GX twice, and it was